Welcome to the Renaissance Spirit.
Domitian, the name that once sent hearts quaking and conspirators whispering in dimly lit atriums. You see, history has already judged me, has already carved my epitaph into the stone. They call me Tyrannus, crudelitas personified, an ostentatious despot obsessed with my reflection in polished marble. Oh, and let's not forget the inevitable comparison. Titus's little brother. But let me take you on a journey, dear viewer, back to when I was simply a boy, the forgotten son of a family already saturated with grandeur and destiny. For the record, I was born in 51 AD on the 24th of October, though the world hardly noticed. My father, Vespasian, was already a formidable force, a war-hardened general, too busy conquering far-off lands like Britain to teach me how to swing a sword. My brother Titus, the golden boy, destined for greatness. If there was a family portrait of us, you'd find me standing in the corner, forgotten, barely noticed, a mere shadow. But little did they know, the shadow eventually consumes the light. My childhood? It was a peculiar education, rich with the finest tutors, but also ripe with neglect. It's hard to bond with your father when he's off waging wars for emperors who have no intention of dying peacefully. Vespasian's rare letters to me always dripped with more duty than affection. And Titus? Well, Titus was the son he actually wanted. Titus was the one he took to the campaigns, the one he groomed for the throne while I stayed in Rome, perfecting the art of waiting. How I watched as the Senate showered Titus with praises, and how I marvelled at their naive adoration for a man who would soon choke on his own virtues. But more on that later. Rome was my cradle, but it was also my cage. I grew up not on the battlefield, but within the very halls of power, where intrigue lingered in the air like the smell of incense. That's where I learned the greatest lesson of all. Blood doesn't run thicker than ambition. Even family can become a tool, a pawn in the larger game. My family? They were my first lesson in betrayal, though, naturally, none of them would admit it. Let's not pretend my early years were all dreary. I wasn't some tragic orphan crying into his toga. My education was impeccable. Greek philosophy, rhetoric, law. Oh yes, I knew all the words of Socrates and Plato, but more importantly, I knew how to twist them to my will. Still, for all the wisdom I gained, I remained the other son, living in the looming shadow of my father and brother. But I waited, silently, because patience is the virtue of the forgotten. A virtue my father, and even Titus, underestimated. And while they basked in the glory of their conquests, I was quietly sharpening my claws. A lesson for you, dear viewer. Don't mistake silence for weakness. Perhaps this story feels like it's beginning in a rather subdued tone. But don't be fooled, this tale has its twists, and this forgotten son would soon set Rome ablaze, both metaphorically and quite literally. So, stick around. If nothing else, you'll witness how history's footnote became its boldest headline. Still with me? Good. I hope you're comfortable, because this is where the drama begins. Now, imagine a world where your destiny is to wait. You watch as the world turns, but your hands remain shackled, not by chains of iron, but by chains of expectation. I spent much of my early career playing the role of the dutiful son, all while secretly crafting my ascension. You see, ambition is a funny thing. No one notices it until it strikes. And strike I did. After Nero's little display of madness, the empire shuffled through a rapid succession of would-be emperors. The year of the 4 emperors, they call it. Yes, Rome in chaos, my father's opportunity to seize power. And what did he do? He turned it into a family business. Vespasian, the old general, with Titus, the golden boy, standing proudly at his side. Where was I, you ask? Left in Rome, of course. My role was to maintain order, but we all knew what that meant. They saw me as too green for battle, but good enough to play the political puppet. That's the thing about Vespasian. He never understood that power isn't just forged on the battlefield. While my father and Titus were off proving themselves in blood and sand, I was consolidating my own influence. Rome may not have been ablaze in the literal sense. That honour went to Nero, but it was ripe with discontent. Senators with too much power, plebeians with too little, and an empire stretching its limits. Titus may have won battles, but I, Domitian, was learning how to win minds. Then it happened. Vespasian died in 79 AD. A natural death, the kind of death emperors rarely get. Titus, the beloved son, took the throne. And me? I was left to watch again. Titus was everything an emperor should be. Generous, mild, adored by the Senate and the people alike. You would have loved him. I tolerated him. He spent his reign building public works, aiding in disasters like the eruption of Vesuvius, and generally making me look like a villain in waiting. But then, destiny took a sharp turn. In 81 AD, after just 2 years as emperor, Titus died suddenly. They say it was illness. I say it was the gods setting the stage for me. I ascended to the throne, finally, though not with the fanfare Titus received. No, the Senate feared me, the people questioned me, but the throne was mine, and Rome was mine. Ah, the sweet irony. They had all spent years underestimating me, considering me the afterthought of the Flavian dynasty. Now I was Domitian Augustus, Emperor of Rome, and so, to the senators, I offered a simple smile and said, "Fear not, for I shall rule with fairness." I'm sure they believed me for about 5 minutes. What was my early reign like, you ask? I'd describe it as the dawning of a new age. The reign of my brother had been like a placid lake, calm and serene. My reign, however, would be more like a tempest. The Pax Romana would continue, of course, but beneath it a storm was brewing, one that would shake the very foundations of Roman power. But let me not get ahead of myself. I had big plans, you see, and they would not all be welcomed with open arms. Power, after all, has its price, and I was more than willing to pay it. Stay tuned, dear viewer. The Empire may have thought they knew me, but they were about to meet the real Domitian. The shadows are lifting. My reign would be one of transformation, both for myself and for Rome. And Rome, much like you, would soon learn to both love and loathe me in equal measure. Now we arrive at the heart of the story, my reign, the moment when I, the forgotten son, cast aside the shadow of my brother Titus and stepped into the blazing spotlight of imperial power. And let's be honest, it was a reign that left Rome gasping, either in awe or terror. But don't take that as hyperbole, just look at the history books. Or better yet, allow me to tell you the real story. Let's start with Titus. The historians, the poets, the Senate, even the common people, everyone adored him. His short reign was marked by generosity, virtue, and a disturbing amount of public approval. The eruption of Vesuvius, Titus rushed in with aid. A devastating fire in Rome, Titus again, the hero. It's almost nauseating how beloved he was, isn't it? But that's the thing about being everyone's darling. You shine so brightly that no one bothers to check for cracks. If Rome was a stage, Titus played the perfect leading man. And then came me, the new Domitian. The empire had changed hands, and with it, the tone of rule. I wasn't interested in public adoration, or charity, or making people feel all warm and fuzzy. I was interested in order, in the kind of stability that doesn't need applause to survive. I enacted sweeping reforms. Military pay was increased, border defences were strengthened, and, of course, I took a particular interest in justice, my kind of justice. I wasn't afraid to be ruthless. My father's reign, an era of construction. My brother's reign, an era of compassion. But my reign, it was an era of discipline, pure and simple. Yes, you've heard the whispers of my cruelty. But let me explain something to you. Rome is not some fragile, delicate flower. It's a beast, a lumbering, powerful beast that needs a firm hand to control it. A beast that, if left untamed, would tear itself apart. Titus coddled it. I tamed it. And let me tell you, taming a beast requires a whip, not a gentle pat on the head. Senators who plotted against me? Executed, not because I enjoyed it, though I'll admit there was a certain satisfaction in watching their faces drain of colour, but because it was necessary. I was emperor, not a puppet. The Senate needed to learn that they weren't running the show. I was. Rome was mine to mould, and I moulded it in my image gleaming and unyielding, like the marble statues that lined my palaces. Oh, and let's not forget the Domus Aurea, the grand palaces and monuments I erected in my name. They called me ostentatious, excessive. But what is an emperor without splendour? My architectural feats were not just for my ego, though I won't pretend I didn't enjoy the spectacle. They were a testament to Rome's greatness, to the power of a ruler who knew what it took to keep an empire together. The Colosseum may have been my father's idea, but I finished it, and it stood as a symbol of my reign grand, terrifying, and inescapable. Titus was loved, but love alone doesn't keep the barbarians at the borders or the treacherous senators in line. My rule was efficient. I restored the economy, fortified the army, and brought peace, true peace, to the provinces. I may not have won their hearts, but I won their obedience. And in the end, isn't that what matters most? Of course, I knew it couldn't last forever. The Senate simmered with resentment. Conspirators whispered in dark corners. Even the gods seemed to toy with me, offering me fleeting moments of triumph only to yank them away. But I was ready for it. Let them plot. Let them scheme. My reign would not be remembered for its brevity or its kindness. It would be remembered for its strength. But then again, perhaps you're wondering, what kind of legacy does that leave behind? What happens when the iron grip loosens? Don't worry, we'll get to that soon. For now, relish in the rise. The fall is always more dramatic when you're at the peak. And now, dear viewer, we approach the inevitable. You didn't think I would live forever, did you? No emperor does. Not even one as invincible as I believed myself to be. But let me assure you, my death was not the stuff of grand tragedy or heroic last stands. No, my fall was a bitter cocktail of betrayal, irony, and, dare I say, a touch of poetic justice. The year was 96 AD. I had ruled for 15 years of iron-fisted order, of absolute power. I had crushed rebellions, executed traitors, and brought Rome to a level of stability that even my brother Titus couldn't have dreamed of. But with great power comes great paranoia, and let's just say I had enemies, many enemies. Perhaps it was inevitable that one of them would get the better of me. After all, even emperors sleep. Now, if you listen to the historians, they'll tell you I became a tyrant. They say I lost myself to suspicion, seeing conspiracies in every corner of the empire, and that my increasing paranoia led to countless executions. Is that true? Perhaps. But wouldn't you be a little paranoid too, if everyone around you was secretly plotting your demise? The Senate, of course, hated me. I had humiliated them, stripped them of their power, and made it abundantly clear that I didn't need their approval to rule. In their eyes, I was a tyrant who had overstayed his welcome. And so, the knives were drawn. On the morning of September 18th, I should have been more cautious. After all, the signs were there. My closest advisor, Stephanus, entered my chambers, his arm bandaged, claiming he was injured while discovering a plot against me. And like a fool, I believed him. But beneath those bandages lay a dagger, not a wound. When the time was right, Stephanus attacked. I fought, of course. They'll say I died cowering, but that's a lie. I struggled. I fought back. But in the end, it was a pathetic way to go. Stabbed to death in my own chambers by the very people I trusted. There was no grand battle, no stirring last words. Just blood, treachery, and the cold reality that even emperors are mortal. It's ironic, really. I had executed so many for treason, and yet, in the end, it was treason that undid me. My enemies, the very ones I had sought to crush, had the last laugh. The Senate wasted no time in condemning my memory, issuing a damnatio memoriae, a condemnation of my legacy, an erasure of my name from all public monuments. They tried to erase me from history itself. A futile gesture, really. Here I am, telling you my story, and Rome still stands, much of it bearing the marks of my reign. And thus, Domitian fell, not by the sword of an enemy on the battlefield, but by the blade of a traitor in his own home. The mighty emperor, undone by the very thing he had so ruthlessly sought to control power. So, I'm dead, murdered in a most unceremonious fashion, reduced to a footnote, the victim of Rome's thirst for intrigue and betrayal. But let me tell you something about legacies. They're not written by the gods. They're written by the victors, by the sycophants, and by those left standing. So naturally, the Senate, my dear old friends, wasted no time spitting on my grave. Damnatio memoriae, the ultimate insult. They wanted to erase me, to pretend that Domitian never existed. Statues of me were torn down, my name scratched from inscriptions, and my accomplishments swept under the marble floors of the Senate chambers. They tried to erase my legacy, as if 15 years of ruling the greatest empire on earth could be forgotten with the flick of a chisel. But here's the thing about legacies, they're stubborn. Sure, they labelled me a tyrant. The historians, most of them cosy with the Senate, depicted me as a paranoid despot, cruel and merciless, obsessed with power and control. Tacitus, Suetonius, Pliny the Younger. They all had their knives out, gleefully carving up my reputation. But I ask you, what does it say about a ruler when their enemies are the ones with the loudest voices after their death? What do the facts say? I expanded the empire's borders, brought financial stability, and strengthened the military. I secured the provinces, increased soldiers' pay, and made sure the Roman treasury wasn't bled dry by endless conquests and extravagances. The empire flourished under my rule, like it or not. The Pax Romana, that famed piece of Rome, didn't fall apart because of me. In fact, I ensured it endured. I rebuilt Rome's infrastructure, leaving behind grandiose temples and fortifications that stood for centuries after my demise. Funny how those monuments to my so-called tyranny remained standing long after those who condemned me were dust in their graves. But that wasn't enough for them. No, I wasn't like my father, Vespasian, the rugged old general, or my brother Titus, the charming hero. I was Domitian the ruler who brought discipline and demanded respect, not love. The Senate hated me because I reminded them who truly held the power. The people? They were divided. Some loathed me, sure, but many respected what I had built. It's easy to demonize someone when you've never worn the imperial purple. Yet, here's the real twist. While they tried to erase me, they couldn't erase the impact I left on the empire. My successors would follow in my footsteps, enacting policies I introduced, benefiting from the stable economy I created, and even borrowing my authoritarian methods when it suited them. Funny, isn't it? The very emperors who sat on the throne after me, Trajan, Hadrian, were often called the greatest rulers of Rome, but they took more than a few lessons from Domitian. So, what is my legacy? I suppose that depends on who you ask. To the Senate, I was a tyrant. To the military, I was a benefactor. To historians, I was the ruler who dared to wield absolute power, and for that, I was vilified. But to Rome, I was the emperor who ruled when it needed an iron hand, when kindness and charity wouldn't have kept the empire standing. And so, my name survives, in whispers and in shadows. But it survives. Whether you remember me fondly or as a monster, you remember me. That's more than many emperors can say. But was it all worth it? Did the empire truly need a Domitian? Keep watching, dear viewer, and decide for yourself. And now, we arrive at the question that lingers in the minds of all who dare to rule. Was it worth it? Was my reign, with all its iron-fisted control, its executions, its grandeur, its paranoia, worth the price I paid? Let's be honest with ourselves for a moment. Ruling an empire like Rome was never going to be a path of roses. You're either the lion or the lamb, and I made damn sure I was the lion. But was it necessary, you ask? Did Rome need Domitian? The answer is as complicated as Rome itself. Sure, I could have been like Titus' beloved benevolent, the hero of the people. But what would that have gotten me? Or the empire for that matter? Another short-lived reign, plagued by the kind of softness that sees an empire crumble from within. No, Rome needed order, structure and discipline. It needed a ruler who wasn't afraid to make difficult, unpopular decisions. And that's exactly what I was. But then, we get to these grand ideas that historians love to talk about. Equality, freedom, liberty, democracy. They'll say that these are the true markers of a just ruler. Did I care for such lofty ideals? No, they are lovely concepts for philosophers to debate over cups of wine, but impractical for an empire as vast and unruly as Rome. Freedom and democracy sound wonderful until the mob turns against you, or until the Senate, in their infinite arrogance, starts thinking they can rule better than the emperor. My reign wasn't about liberty, it was about survival for both Rome and myself. And if you think that makes me a villain, then perhaps you've never truly understood power. But let's indulge for a moment. What if I had ruled with a lighter touch? What if I had embraced the ideals of equality, of giving more freedom to the people, of allowing democracy to have a stronger foothold? Would that have made me a better ruler? Maybe. Would it have kept the empire from fracturing at its edges, or stopped the conspiracies that led to my death? Absolutely not. Power doesn't bend to ideals. It bends to force, to control. And Rome, the beast that it was, could only be tamed by an emperor who understood that. So, was it worth it? I ruled with an iron hand, yes, but I kept Rome stable. I strengthened its borders, ensured its prosperity, and maintained peace, albeit my own version of it. Was I loved? No. But being loved is a fleeting, fragile thing. Being feared, that lasts. In the end, the empire endured, and that is the measure of a successful reign, is it not? Now, dear viewer, I leave you with a thought. When you walk through the ruins of ancient Rome, when you stand before the Colosseum that I completed, when you hold in your hands an ancient coin with my image stamped upon it, ask yourself, would you prefer a ruler who promised you the illusion of freedom, or one who ensured the security of your world, no matter the cost? That is the question my reign asks of history. And speaking of history, allow me to shift tones for a moment. You've read my tale, heard the echoes of Rome through my words, but the story doesn't end here. No, the Renaissance spirit, this curious little pursuit of knowledge, still beats through the ages. You've watched, you've learned, but you must continue. Seek out these places, visit the Colosseum, walk through the forums where emperors once stood, feel the weight of history beneath your feet. Collect the coins, not just for their value, but for the history they carry in their inscriptions and worn edges. Thank you for watching. Our channel, The Renaissance Spirit, is dedicated to the pursuit of a just, equitable and humanitarian world. Our topics span history, politics, society and culture, offering a deep dive into the human experience. Ancient Rome, in all its complexities, offers a striking mirror to our own modern world. It's a topic perfect for the true modern polymath, those who seek to understand the world not just through facts, but through the lens of compassion, reason, and curiosity. The Renaissance was a rebirth, not just of art and culture, but of the pursuit of knowledge. It gave rise to the Enlightenment, to the age of reason and era that reminds us to embrace truth, to seek understanding, and to view humanity's shared history with both awe and humility. Through learning, through knowledge, we better ourselves, becoming stewards not just of the earth, but of one another. The Renaissance spirit is more than just a philosophy. It's a way of living, of growing, of thinking, please subscribe, turn on notifications, and share our journey with others. If you're ready to explore what life has to offer through the lens of history, philosophy, and culture, then I'm sure you'll find our other videos equally enlightening. Leave a comment, let us know what you think, and what you'd like to see next. But before you go, take the quiz to see if you too carry the Renaissance spirit. Vive Renaissance Spiritus. History has not died, only our understanding of it. And as for me, Domitian, history may try to forget me, but I, like Rome, am eternal.